Hey, I'm Patrick Hines.
And I'm Jillian Pensavalle.
And together, we make the true crime comedy podcast,
True Crime Obsessed.
Each week, we watch a popular true crime documentary like The Keepers or Mommy Dead and Dearest.
And then, using clips from the film, we break it down in a smart and respectful, but also sassy and hilarious way.
Like this.
That's awesome that you can just be like, I'm going to dig up my property and put in a pool. And then being like, this is going to be so lovely and luxurious and I'm going to relax. Oh my God! Why are there plastic bags full of dead bodies? Like, wouldn't you have to move?
I just have a lot of questions about chloroform,
Out
you guys.
comes the chloroform. Can you imagine? It has the skull and crossbones on every bottle, right? It has to. And it comes with a little rag, right? The dirty rag that's been used way too many times. Like, and the bottle's half empty, always, right?
You guys, with over 1,000 five-star iTunes reviews
and over 1.5 million downloads, maybe check us out because we're probably the new true crime podcast you've been looking for.
You can find True Crime Obsessed anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Your alternative talk radio contact, The Planet, KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complacency, people went to and fro the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Welcome to another episode of Into the Fray, hovering over you like a black triangle in a deserted field. Visit the mothership at intothefrayradio.com. There you can find all the episodes, the blog posts, ITF gear, and sign up for the free guest newsletter. The weekly show is, of course, always free and available in all podcatchers, but if you'd like to support the show, and why wouldn't you, go to the website and click Become an Insider, which in turn gets you extra content each and every month. And by the way, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review in your listening platform of choice, Cosmic Karma shall be yours. Be part of the discussion by joining the interactive ITF Facebook group. Follow on Twitter at ITF_radio and Instagram. If you have an experience that you'd like to share, email Shannon at intothefrayradio.com or call the hotline anytime at 844-866-3366. Thanks so much for listening. Now, if you would be so kind, buckle up your safety belts. That tray table in the upright position. Liftoff is upon us.
Sorry about that. Okay. So, who all is in the house?
Well, I see Jeremy, and let's see, Chris is here, Riviera. And Shannon's here, too. Wow,
cool. Oh, hey, Kai. What's up, buddy? Kai's calling from Texas.
Who's in Florida?
Victoria calling in. Victoria. That's me.
No.
Oh, hey, Victoria.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
Yes, you did.
Excellent.
How about you?
Hello.
I'm a virgin, so please go easy on me.
We'll try, but we can't make any promises. Who's New Jersey?
New Jersey.
Cisco.
Hello, Cisco. Hi, sweetheart. How are y'all?
Fabulous.
Good. Help with these footprints.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. Jared just jumped on, and Teresa just joined us.
No, not Jera.
Jera's here.
Man. Must be demons.
It's gotta be demons, baby. It's always demons. You gotta blame the demons first, and then you work from there.
Peculiar Mayhem.
Peculiar Mayhem podcast, which we need to hear more of, right, Teresa? Okay. There is some interesting things that have been going on that we will talk about. So, how many of you guys actually caught the new video that I just put up just like an hour ago about the footprints?
I did.
The footprints is something that got sent to me, and I won't be sharing who sent it. It's been some really weird stuff going on at this property in Florida. And it's so creepy because some photos were actually shared with me, and I was allowed to share with you guys. And it was footprints that came out of this pool. And the footprints stayed there for, and actually I should have asked how long the footprints stayed there. They looked wet, but they weren't actually wet. And the lady was asking her friend, she's like, okay, so are they wet still? She's like, no, they're just there. And there was 3 left footprints and a right footprint. But all sorts of stuff going on. It seems to be like some kind of a warden of the woods behind this house where it's going on, because they can actually hear this thing walking around all the time in the wood line, and it wears a flipping cape, like some caped figure, and it was messing with the folks that come in and help with the gardening of the home. So nothing that I would want in my own home, that's for sure. So those of you guys that saw that video and the pictures, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I kind of took it as if the footprints were not wet, maybe it was some sort of oily substance that you can't feel wet. I don't know, but yeah. And the fact that there's more left footprints than right footprints, that's rather odd.
Right.
Pretty darn creepy. I have a question. Did you say that they tore down the fence and replaced it with a black vinyl or something?
Mm-hmm.
Did I catch that in the story?
Yes.
Okay. Did they bless the fence afterwards? Or did they take down the barriers that they put up with the blessing and then replace the fence? Am I getting that wrong?
I think that at the end it was said that they blessed up to the fence line, from what I recall of the email. And I can get that clarified more.
Yeah, that's a big question for me, just for the fact of, okay, well, if, most people realize, because we're talking to an elite group here that really understand that smudging and blessing and things like that, that's not a one and done. You got to kind of keep doing it. Now, if they did it and it worked, then repeat those things, but the homeowner has to be in on that too. I mean, you just can't have somebody come in and then the homeowner, okay, we're good, and then talking about it all the time, and you know what I mean?
Right.
It just kind of brings it back in. But if they did it to the fence and then it stopped and it can't get in, they have to understand that when they get in their car, it can follow them. Do you know what I mean? You're okay once you get in your house, but I mean, it's not finished, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and that would make sense if it was to the yeah, and it would make sense because if it's to the fence line and now it's not coming closer to the house, then that's why it would still be hanging out in the woods. So that would totally make sense.
So I'm okay with not being anonymous. My best friend, I want her to be anonymous because of her business.
Victoria, can you just make sure you're talking real loud, like right into your phone? And I didn't want to call you out if you didn't want everyone to know that you sent the email. The person that sent me the email is in the house right now.
So, this thing didn't start happening right away. So she has kids that come and go in the home. They move out, they move in, they move back in. She's just that kind of mom to try to help out her kids. We don't know how this thing started. But it started the little things, and then she would have a dream. She had more than one dream. All of a sudden, the thing it just seemed like the footprints were there. They were not oily, they were dry. However, that day it rained, and then the footprints were gone, but we were able to capture the pictures.
Mm-hmm. And what about the whole fence line thing that Cisco was talking about? Did I get that right?
Okay. So what happened was, at the time my friend had the original fence to the home, she replaced it with a white vinyl fence, but in the back it's the black aluminum fence. And my sister is the one that came and blessed her home, because my sister also blessed my home when I had some issues in my home. My issues were very minor. They were enough to scare me. But I think the island we live on is haunted, honestly, because there's activity with her neighbors, and there's activity with other people that live out here. It's an area called Fleming Island. It's a relatively new area in the sense that the housing development started here in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And it was all swamp. I did try to read a little bit of history about Fleming Island. We do have an old church here with an old cemetery. And the woman that had the church built actually never set foot into it until the day she was buried.
Mm.
So I don't know if it's Timaquan activity going on here. We don't know how it happened, but the strange thing about the footprints was not only was it the three left and the one right, but there was no heel print. It was all the arch and the top of the foot.
It was walking on its toes.
What state was this in?
Florida.
Why would it be walking on its toes? What's the thought behind that?
I don't know, but it was. That's weird.
So you could see five toes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you could. It was walking on the balls of its, on the top of its feet like an animal would do, without putting its heel down. That's what I saw. I could be seeing it wrong.
And it's barefoot?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
barefoot.
Yeah, Teresa, I just posted that about an hour ago. It's a video of an email, or just me reading the email. I apologize. And then underneath the video, I included the pictures that Victoria sent along of these footprints coming out of her friend's pool.
So, yes, the activity on the outside of the fence is happening. There has been no activity in her yard or up to the fence. You can just hear it walking around back there.
Can I ask Victoria a question? Do you mind?
No, of course.
Can I ask her a question? Victoria, forgive me for just asking a couple questions, but a couple of things stood out to me as a Native American myself. Now, in that area, is there any local Native affiliates? Can you get a shaman or someone, a medicine person that is affiliated with the tribe that was in that area before the housing and everything was built? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes and no. Actually, the land that she's on was built up. It was all swamp. So I don't know.
Well,
if
somebody
that makes a
was
difference.
out there. It doesn't, not really, but the reason I wanted to ask was because, first of all, if it is the same thing that left the footprints, and we don't know, it could be just someone that was at the house or the property or was drawn to the family or whatever. But if it's in the woods and the animals are reacting that way, the dogs were acting that way, I heard something about the animals all reacting at a certain time all together, I would go back more into the nature of it and see if you can't just go down to the local historical society or someone there and see if they can get someone that was affiliated with any close Native tribe there, that maybe they can go out in the woods and just make a peace with that and say, look, you cannot be around this family or this property. Go back here and stay over there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems to be nature-based in some way.
I see what you're saying. Without a doubt, to me, it's a man. I mean, the man feet, the man, it just, and then what happened was my friend's daughter and I were sitting out in the back porch. And it was late at night. I often go over there and drink wine and kind of sit down and hang out. And I had looked over at my friend's daughter and I said, hey, do you remember that time when, the footprints and stuff were out here? And she said, yeah. And right then is when we heard a super loud yell, which I thought it was her neighbor because he's often outside. I thought it was him. It wasn't. And right at that moment that it yelled, like it hollered and like it was angry. And then everything in the forest, there were 2 barred owls that started screeching and everything else started screeching in the forest. And well, it's not a forest, it's wooded area. It's a very thick wooded area.
Right.
It's not had any activity. at all in the home, just on the outside of the perimeter in the backyard. Out in the woods.
Well, just like I said, I'm nobody, but just out of my 2 cents, it's just a heavy feeling I got, and quite honestly, not knowing anything else, I'm thinking the two things are separate. I really do. I think the feet are separate from the thing that's in the woods. A guesstimate, you know what I mean? But I would see if you could do that, and then I would absolutely keep up the blessing too. Like tell her that if she, whatever she's believing in, as far as sage, or you just want to bless the house or whatever, I would say like a once a week thing. Go out in the yard and do that as well. Keep it up is what I'm saying. It's a maintenance.
It just seems like it's a strong thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I've got a feeling right now, and again, I'll say it, I'm nobody, but I've got a feeling right now you're going to get a better reaction on the outside of that fence from someone who is native-based, a shaman, a medicine man, and you can find them and come and say, I just want a blessing here. I want a calmness. I want, a peace given. Sometimes they even offer, I know it sounds so strange, but to, plant a fruit tree or put something back in the thing, whatever it may be. But if it gives some kind of peace to your friend, it's also going to create a peace on that property. And, it can't hurt. You see what I'm saying? As long as she's okay and nobody's being harmed at this point, you're not in an emergency situation. But I do feel that you might want to do a maintenance kind of thing, and maybe do that as a gesture. It wouldn't hurt.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Because I love listening to you. I love listening to Shannon interview you, so that's great. I had a minor incident in my home, and my sister came and blessed my home. And my home was built in 2005, and I've been the original owner. There was nothing on my property prior to that. It was just woods. And, of course, the whole area is wooded and swamp. Now, I'm just off the island. I'm actually on the island. But there is activity on my street. There's other people in the neighborhood that have had issues. So I don't know. This whole entire piece of land out here is just crazy. But I've not had any problems in my home since my sister had come and blessed my home. And my son now, that was when he was younger, and now he's 21. So it was quite some time ago.
I was going to say about the footprints, I'm looking at them now. If you look at the pinky toe, it looks like whoever it was, wore shoes at some point because the toes smashed in from the shoes. You understand what I'm saying by that?
I noticed that too, yeah.
No, I appreciate your input, Cisco. And I knew that once I saw you in here and then Victoria was in here, thank you, Victoria, for being okay with talking about that. Like we said, her friend is going to stay anonymous, but as this kind of situation unfolds, and if there's any new information, I'm sure that she'll share that with me. Anything you want to forward to me, Victoria, even if it's on a private kind of a thing, we can get Cisco involved or whatever, but she's definitely very sensitive, and if she says it's more on a native kind of a vein and go that route, then that's definitely the route that we should probably take with that. So, sorry, that was me bumping my mic.
Well, I'm going on the animals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going on the animals too, Shannon. When you said the animals, usually when it's something like that, it's something that, and I don't mean just of nature. I don't mean that it has to be elemental or it has to be this or has to be that. What I'm saying is, if you're dealing with nature, you go to someone who understands nature. Either go Wicca, go Wiccan, go Native, go, and if you got the tribe that was that area as close as possible, they're going to know what to do. And it's going to understand.
We do have a Timucuan Historical Society in Jacksonville for the Timucuan Native Americans.
So that would be my first.
There you go.
That would be my first stop.
So we believe that she was actually being raped by this thing. And I don't know if you feel like they were two separate things, if you felt like it would have been the thing with the footprints or the thing on the outside of the fence.
Like I said, it's a hypothesis, and I'm nobody. I'm just saying, I think there's more than one. I think somebody in there maybe has some kind of ability that it's drawn to, and maybe they don't even realize it. It could just be anything. I mean, this is all you're dealing with, attractions, and I mean, you sat there and you were talking about it, and it heard you. It hears you now. You know what I mean? I don't want to,
So
but that's how
my
these
sister
things
said.
are.
My sister said she thought it was 2. She was the only other one that said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean,
I
that's
got a
just, like I
question.
said, it's a guess.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Is there anything particular about the footprints? Like, are they large or small? Anything that makes them stand out in particular? Because they look very humanoid.
Right.
So are they
But I thought they were a small foot.
So like about maybe the size of a child, or maybe even smaller, like
A small man, like maybe a man size 8 or 9, like a small.
Okay, all right. I was just.
But without the heel, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions about that?
I've got a question.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
Go
Sorry
ahead,
to cut you
Jeremy.
off, man.
No, it's all right.
So how far apart are these? It's kind of hard to tell from the pictures. Does it look like it's a normal adult stride, or is it farther than that?
Well, it's just the 3 left feet and the 1 right footprint. So it was like left, and then right.
So
And
it's almost like somebody dipped their toes in your pool and walked away.
Right, and they didn't. You know how, like, if you and I were swimming, we would be able to get out of the pool and pick ourselves up and be soaking wet with our handprints down. It was just straight footprints straight out of the pool.
Right. Well, I have to agree with the point of dipping the toes in the pool, because if you get out of a pool, you're soaking wet and you're dripping water everywhere, and your footprints kind of get obliterated by a lot of soaking water. So having just the footprints, I would say, yeah, either dipping the feet in the pool or it walked across the surface of the water. Who knows? Maybe you had a biblical visit.
Is
Interesting.
do we have why is his name falling out of my head? Who's got the fire alarm going off in the background?
It's mine. I better go.
Okay, sorry. I think that we are bad luck for that, guys. What do you think? Because
Every time a fire alarm goes off.
what is that? Every single time we all get together.
The energy.
Yeah, Corey was like, well, I'm the manager of the building. I guess I better go. The last time. Yeah, Vance has got a good system. Basically, if Vance is not talking and I can watch him do it, if he's not talking, he mutes himself, because you guys may not realize this, but if you're like breathing into your phone or your mic or whatever, or you're just shuffling things around on your desk, it is super loud. So I think maybe that's just a good habit, and it's really quick to unmute. How easy is it, though, to unmute if they're on their phones? I don't know, Vance, but anyhow. Okay. So,
the whole time.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thanks, Pamela. Oh, by the way, it is birthday girl. Pamela is here, so we have to say happy birthday.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Thanks, guys.
Oh, it's cool that you hopped on here on your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Pam, did you hear that at the beginning of the show?
I did.
You
I
hear
caught
the
the
beginning
tail into it. I came into it late, but I did watch. I watched the insider thing on it, with the thing in the pool and the thing with the friends, but I didn't get to hear the beginning of the show. If there was something I missed, I came in a little late, but I did catch some of that.
I would be interested to think of what you thought about that too, without knowing what I said. If Shannon, if you want to ask Pam that and see if she feels the same way about the animals and the woods and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
What's the question, guys?
Yeah. With what's going on this property in Florida, there's a whole connection. Now we have the water thing too, which is interesting because it has to do with the pool, which we know that's not a natural body of water, but it's a body of water. So we got the pool, we've got the woods behind the house, and the animals are reacting to it. And then not to mention the interaction between what we're going to label for right now as an incubus. And, like Cisco was mentioning, we can't just jump to it being an elemental, and we're not sure if it's something tied to the land or something Native American. That's the vein that Cisco is going and what she got from the video. But just the initial reaction of that story, and especially since you have had so many things go on with you, and especially the out of doors and that whole connection. And we were just wondering what you might have gotten from that story.
Yeah, the first thing that popped into my head was something that I'm more familiar with in the Irish lore called the Canog, and it's a type of fae, and they call them the love talker. And they'll just take, they'll just all of a sudden they'll take a liking to someone, and they'll sort of torment you. Like one of their tags is to bother the animals, bother the land, your things on your land. And it usually ends up in, relations, like same that you would hear with a succubus or an incubus type story. And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I definitely think it's something in that vein that's connected to that land. And I almost, when you were talking, I heard you a little bit, and I was wondering, had she been anywhere that she might, like, I'm saying, like visiting some sort of old world type thing, forest, some sort of amusement park, something back away from, not that place. I almost feel like she picked it up somewhere and it sort of followed her there. But it's definitely, connected to some sort of land.
She's not a real adventurous type person. I would be the one who is. I'm the one that likes to do activity like kayaking and go out in nature and things like that. I don't do it that often because I work. But her children come and go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and Pam, I don't know if you knew this, but Victoria, maybe that's the part that you also missed too, is that Victoria's the one that sent me the email about her friend, so she's actually in here with us.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, nice to meet you, and good to talk
nice
to you.
To meet you. Okay.
That's okay. No, I mean, I may be completely wrong on that, but I was just getting the feeling that she crossed its path somewhere, and it sort of took a liking to her, and it's definitely something, out of the usual wheelhouse, like, Native American or connected to, old world land, that sort of thing. That's what I keep getting. I don't know. I mean, you say she's not very adventurous, but you'll have to mention that to her and see if it could have been just as simple as driving by it or stopping there for a little bit on some other kind of trip or something. Just mention that and see what she says.
Okay. She does have family that she does frequently visit in Ocala, and they live in the forest.
Oh, really?
Which is a
okay.
Very thick forest, yes.
A lot of stuff goes on there.
I don't like Ocala.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, I really think sometimes you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they just, take a liking to you.
No, thanks for the input.
Okay, well, thank you very much,
from both you
everyone.
ladies. Yeah, thank you so much. And, of course, to Victoria for sharing that in the first place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was very apprehensive about sharing the story, and at the encouragement of another listener who I had discussed the story with had requested to have me please let you know, like he felt like it was worth your time.
Depending on what comes down the line later, Victoria, we can talk about that. But before we get to Vance, and
hopefully
after all,
nothing else will happen.
No, yeah, hopefully it's not a developing story and it just goes the hell away, right? Especially after what your friend has experienced. But considering this is the Frayed March episode, and I need to try to keep it on vein with, things that have been going on, which that was, because that is very recent. Before we get to Vance, who some of you may not know, but he had an incredible sighting very, very recently. But Brennan Storr of the Ghost Story Guys, also known as Zach Bagan's #1 fan, is in the chat right now. Brennan, how are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back to Vegas so I can murder you for that last line there. I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I know. I deserve it, but that's okay. Next time we pull up to the museum, and now that we know that he drives that hearse, I'm afraid that with that inside information, you'll just be like, okay, so we're just going to go get that drink right now and not even worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to go to there's going to be the Neon Museum. That sounds nice.
Yeah, no, you're not getting out of that one that easily. You're going to get your selfie with your portrait taken with Mr. Zach Bagans. It's got to happen. I know that it would make Ian happy. Ian would be happy. Just think of Ian.
Seeing Ian happy is like antivitamins. It actively causes me pain.
Anything going on in the world of the ghost story, guys?
Nothing crazy paranormal. Well, actually, no, that's not entirely true. We were recording on Thursday, and the episode is Things in the Woods, and whatever the subject must have been an appealing one, because the issues we have in the building, I hesitate to say spirits, but whatever it is that occupies our building on that level was very much attracted to it. I want to say about halfway through the record, we ended up pausing and turning on all the lights in the studio because it was usually we just sit with a little table lamp with everything else off. And about halfway through, Ian was telling a great story, and I could not stop looking over his shoulder into the entryway to the studio because I was certain there was something there. There wasn't, but yeah, you really felt the presence. And after he finished the story, I apologized and said, I was listening. And he stopped me and said, no, I know. I can feel it over my shoulder. It's fine.
Wow. Okay. So it was nothing that you physically saw with your eyeballs. It was a feeling that both of you got.
Yeah. I mean, I kept looking as though there were going to be something there. But no, there was nothing. Although I did actually have sort of an interesting little thing happen when I was in the desert that I didn't mention on our show. And that is, I was driving back from the west rim of the Grand Canyon, and the road that goes through the Hualapai Reservation back to the main highway. When I first drove that back in 2010, it was just dirt. It was a terrible road, but now it's all nicely paved. But it's dark and it's still reasonably remote. And coming back from the west rim after it closed, it was dark by the time we were about halfway down the road. And I saw two black shapes about, I guess, what I would assume would be about the size of small dogs in the middle of the road. And I started to swerve to go around them because I thought, Jesus, I'm gonna mow these things down. And then they were gone. But two they look like little fluffy black clouds. Again, I thought they were little dogs or something.
The hell's that?
Maybe even coyotes. No idea. But they were there and then they were gone. And the other person in the car with me, they just wondered why the hell I was swerving. They hadn't seen anything.
Oh. You're like, a few too many drinks. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. I knew I shouldn't have had the bottle of whiskey before I started driving.
Yeah. I mean, usually just gets you right, but in this case, see, the desert is just as creepy as the woods. It can be just as terrifying with as much weirdness as anything else. So
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I've told you the story about the time my GPS went wacky in the desert.
Yeah.
And tried to get us to go down that dark road out in the middle of the night in the res. No, the desert's got a whole lot of mojo.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I've seen a lot of things jump out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, it could be so many things. There's so many things that
I know
that it makes me think of. I've even seen just blotches of energy that weren't really anything. Yep. It was just like energy. So it could be a lot of. It's odd that you would see it though. Like maybe there's something behind that if you were meant to see it if you don't normally pick up on that sort of thing. But that's interesting. What do you got, Cisco?
Well, he was saying he was sensitive anyway. I mean, he could feel the thing in the hallway, and the other guy felt it too, so validated it. So he's sensitive.
Yeah.
He's going to pick it up on the energy. So, you're going to see a lot more things. I'm sure you have. That's not the only thing you've ever seen, right, Brennan?
Oh, no, far from it. I mean, I don't see
That's
often.
what I'm saying.
Usually I feel,
Yeah.
but, there does seem to be more of a visual component happening. And actually, I had a strange experience back around Christmas time when I was out for a walk and sound just fell away. And I realized I just felt like I was completely alone. And
wow.
The closer I got to this one particular area, the weaker I got. And the more it seemed like if I kept going forward, I wouldn't be able to come backwards. And so I turned around. I turned around and went home. I thought, well, I'm not going to screw around with this.
Good for you.
But what I know...
Yep.
What?
Yep. Very smart.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't mess around. I'm a coward.
There you go. Yeah.
But
you went you went with your gut intention. You went with your gut intention. And sometimes, I've said it 1,000 times. Everybody's got it. We just tend to hush it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're listening to that, you did the right thing when you saw the things going across the car. And the first thing you get is that adrenaline, like that. Like what is that? That little bit of fear, but you can kind of pick up on it too. Is this something I'm supposed to be afraid of? Is this something that maybe is stopping me from moving on because that's what's going to hurt me? A lot of times people misinterpret, and it sounds like you're interpreting it right. So, we may never know, what, we probably never will know what that is. But a lot of times that happens to people, like an apparition or something will happen or something's trying to warn you. And Pam and I both like this one. When you said that, where you were going in and everything, all the sound just went away and you had that feeling, because, that's, you can start saying missing 411, you can say time slip, you could say everything was changing around, you just were in the wrong place at the right time. But you did the right thing, you didn't keep going. You listened to your gut, and that's all I can tell anybody to do, is just don't talk yourself out of that. That's cool. That's cool.
Well, listening to the gut, that kept me from getting shot 3 times in LA back on my first visit there. So it's done all right by me.
There you go.
The thing that occurred to me just now, and the reason I bring it up, is as I left, and we actually just talked about this on the new record. It'll be out on Tuesday, but I had forgotten all about this. As I walked away from that feeling, and actually over the course of the next couple days, I realized I would hear chimes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast, and I would hear chimes, and I thought it was someone on the podcast, maybe that one of the guests had chimes near their house. But then I realized it was happening no matter who was on the line. And then I realized it was happening when I took the headphones off. Very faint in the distance. But for a couple days after that experience, I would hear this.
I'm going to scare you, but that's been happening to me for 2 days now.
Really?
And I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
And it's like a, I don't know what kind of chimes you're saying. The kind of chimes I'm talking about are, the real heavy wind chimes. They almost look like big around as PVC pipe.
Okay.
And it's like this. It's a real, like, it's got a lower tone. Like, I can't duplicate it. But the same thing happened to me. I was trying to record, and I'm like, where are these chimes coming from? I need to settle it down, because it's going to be on the record. And I couldn't figure out. And then I was talking to somebody else, and I'm hearing them. I'm looking around for these chimes, and I don't know whether it's somebody in the neighborhood's got them, and it's just the wind is catching it right. And then it happened when I wasn't at the house. So what is that?
Right.
I got a question.
What is that?
Go ahead, Chris.
I got a question.
That's so weird.
Did the chimes record on the audio, or did you just hear them like yourselves and they didn't record on the audio? The chimes that you're hearing, did they record?
I did not hear them on the audio that I recorded, only in, from myself, from my ears, but it did not record in my case.
Okay.
That's
kind of strange.
I was just going to say, starting with him, it made me think, once you sort of step into that world, sometimes you get residuals after, or once you gain entrance, then you're sort of, it's not like just a step in and step out. Like you might still, have effects after it. And we know Fisco's probably been in it at some point. And you definitely might have, right?
I'm in it up to my neck.
Exactly. So that's what popped into my mind. I mean, that may be totally off, but it makes me think of my experience that I talked about in Ireland, where I had the residuals after, and I could hear, and hearing was, I could hear a lot of sounds and things that I didn't normally, and that just made me think of that experience.
Guys, I've been doing a little research. One of my biggest things that I like to look into, and I'm really interested in, is lost time incidents. And a couple that I've read into, and I'm still waiting to hear back from the people that posted about them, actually talked about hearing a bell or something bell-like right before they experienced a lost time incident as well. So that, I don't know what it has to do, but, two people saying it, one was in bed, one was driving, but they both mentioned separately on separate websites, or separate Reddit posts that they heard bells before it happened.
Wow.
Which could also, maybe be construed as chimes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. That's some food for thought, all right.
Yeah, I wonder what the significance or the logistical purpose is.
I kind of wonder if it is something that we interpret as bells or chimes, but it is not those things. It's like when we hear, in some of these missing 411 cases, people hear water. And I wonder if it really is water, or if it's some kind of noise that we cannot properly interpret. And so we sort of hear it as the closest thing to that.
That's even creepier.
They say a lot of stuff that people experience has to do with frequency and, lowering frequency and higher frequency. So what if maybe it's some kind of frequency switch that, some people can hear, some people don't. And, more often whenever something freaky is happening, it's a frequency change. And that might be what comes to us as a chime or a bell or something similar.
Did you guys...
like when people taste pennies when they're having a heart attack? Something like that.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel anything when you heard these chimes? Both of you, did it elicit any kind of a feeling specifically, or was it an annoyance because you're like, okay, well that needs to go because I'm doing something?
I'm going to say mine at the time was probably more of an annoyance, but I'm also at the time, both times I was in a heightened sense of awareness because I was researching ghost stories. So, I was in a heightened sense trying to, I don't know how to describe it, really get, intricate and decipher and mesh a couple together that were proving a certain point, if that makes sense. So I was really in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably, and now that I think of it, it's probably been more like 3 or 4 times it's happened over the past couple of days. So if it happens again, now I'll be more aware and I can kind of think about that, but I wasn't in any kind of fear-based thing, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I was just more of a heightened sense of awareness. So his theory may have, that holds a little water there, It makes sense.
Or it sounds like water.
Yeah, that sounds...
Right, or it sounds like water. But it does, it makes sense. It does, Or it's or demons.
Sure, why not? Zach Baggins would agree, I'm sure.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's probably what it was telling. It was saying, kill Zach. That's what it was saying. Wait a minute. Let's go back and look.
At least the chimes weren't saying Brennan. I'm just going to throw that out there and be an asshole.
Oh, man, yeah, that was the thing. Holy man.
I have a question for both of you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Have either of you ever been hypnotized?
I have once last year. There's a guy I knew who was training to become to do past life regressions, and he had to do a certain number of free hours before he could get his whatever you call it. So he hypnotized me, and it was, I wouldn't say he was 100% successful. There are definitely parts of the regression I actually remember, but so once, I guess, mostly.
And as far as me, no.
No, never.
I have been told not to allow it to happen unless I am in a room with people that know what they're doing.
I think we brought up the missing time aspect, but hypnotherapists sometimes will use a chime in order to signify the beginning and end of their session, and often those sessions are not remembered by the person being hypnotized.
Oh, interesting.
That makes sense. Yeah, and mine were actually pretty sounding. You know what I mean? Almost like it was pretty, but it was just annoying at the time. So I'm like, where is it coming from? Because, when you're recording and you don't have a place to go to record, you don't have a little studio or something, you're running around like unplugging the refrigerator, all this stuff is coming on in the middle of something you're trying to do, and it was just annoying. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And then I was at another place and I could hear them too. So that's what threw me, because I'm like, it's like it's following me. You see what I mean? That was the annoying part. But they were pretty sounding. So, yeah, weird.
For me, my experience with the chimes was that, well, first, the hypnotherapy session I did, he actually didn't use any bells or anything like that to start or end the system. What do you call it? The process. I've got a recording beginning to end, and it was all verbal cues. But for me, the chimes, they were very subtle. And as I said, when I first heard them, I had my headphones back in, so I thought it was a recording. And then I got home, headphones out. I could still, every now and again, if I stopped, I could hear them, but they were faint, like, I'm trying to think, like sounds on the wind. They were there, but just in the distance if you listened. And then I forgot about it, and then the next day I was in a coffee shop downtown, very bright, open place, very busy place, and it was interesting because when it happened, I sort of then felt far away. They were just at the edge of my perception, and I felt far away is the best way I can describe it. It's a difficult emotion to pin down, but just a sense of otherness and distance. And they were just at the limit of my hearing. And I never heard them when I was in the studio. They went away after about 2 or 3 days. And I think that sort of concluded, because about at the beginning of this year, I had a series of days, maybe about 3 weeks actually, where I was very, very close to things. I felt very sensitive. It just felt like this shit was happening all the time. And then it seemed like after that moment, after hearing those chimes, it ended for a while. And I sort of became very, very separate from it again. So it may even have been a sign of transition somehow.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
Be interested to put out like a little blast. Like, has anybody been hearing chimes or, like the trumpet? Everybody was hearing trumpets for a long time. Like trumpets coming out of the sky. Do you remember that? Just, has anybody been hearing bells or chimes? And see if anybody comes in and says it. If it's happening to more people at the similar time frame, then, it could be something else, It could be a frequency thing. It could be Lord knows what it could be.
I think it's just demons getting its wings, I don't know about you guys, but everything's demons, so a demon got its wings and it can fly right out of hell and into your bedroom. There you go.
Oh, God. Heck no. No.
No, I always whine and complain because nothing cool or interesting or paranormal ever happens to me. And it took Brennan Storr coming to Las Vegas and going to the museum that he was just so against going to. And I totally get it, Brennan, I do, but we're going to do an auxiliary episode. And in fact, with you on the line here, I will say we need to do that soon if you want to and are able to. And we'll do,
I'm around.
Yeah, we'll do an episode on that, but something cool finally happened. And it only took Brennan coming all the way from Canada to get that done and go into the quote-unquote most haunted museum in the world by Zach Bagans, Brennan's favorite person.
It physically pains me to say that I like that museum. It really does.
I know. It's so hard for you.
Soul deep level.
I know. You know what? Of all the people, there was, how many was in our group? 9 or 10, including
something like that.
Yeah, Stacia. She, for her to confirm that without knowing anybody's name, I'm like, I can't believe that just happened to, of all people, Brennan, because we'll talk about this more on our episode, but there was a couple people that heard that Zach was in the house and they were like, oh my God, Zach, is he gonna see us? Oh my God. And they were super excited. And I knew that Brennan's like, give me a break, man. If I see that guy, I'm gonna puke and, just run out the door. And of all people to have that happen to, it was amazing.
Yeah, that was fate messing with me.
Yeah, dude. So we're going to cover that in an auxiliary coming up here really soon. Mark my words. In the next, week, I would like to get that done if you've got the time. Okay.
Yep. No, I got plenty of time.
I am watching the board here, and if everybody's ready, and if Vance is ready to unmute and tell his tale, I would very much like that. But this being Frayed March, this was a very Frayed March because something very, very incredible happened to our good buddy Vance of the Caravan of Lore and the Existence of Strange Things. Vance lives in Chicago, which maybe a lot of people don't know, but they've had a lot of sightings of either one or a few or many winged humanoids. And that is how I will preface this story, and I will hand it over to the lovely Vance Nesbitt.
Well, the lovely. Thank you.
You're so
because
lovely,
I just put on
yes.
fresh lipstick, so I appreciate
I know,
it.
I know you're fresh for this.
Yeah.
Your moment in the sun again.
That was really one of the first questions that I was asked was, well, was this a flying humanoid? No. This was a bird. I'll just give you a brief, a background.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this at my place of employment, and it was during the lunch break. And I happened to be outside because it was actually kind of a nice day. It was about 55, and it was nice. I was leaning up against the guardrail, and I just caught this out of the top peripheral of my vision because I really wasn't looking skyward. And I just, caught a speck of movement, and I just, glanced up, and I see this, and I will say a bird, but it was circling clockwise, but it was, pretty far south of me. But my first reaction was, wow, that thing's huge. And as it was circling, I'm thinking, well, it's going to head south further away from me. And I literally ran through the door because I was actually standing in the driveway. I ran through the door to my desk, which is maybe 10 feet, 12 feet away from the door. And I grabbed my phone and ran back outside. And the coworker that I'm with, he saw me run back outside, and he came out behind me, and I've got my phone held up in the air while this thing was circling back towards us. And I estimated it was anywhere between 900 and 1,000 feet up. And it was actually, coming overhead. And he said, what? Because I'm holding my camera up. And then he saw it, and he's like, holy crap, that thing's huge. I'm like, yeah, it's huge. And he brought up the point of either I did or he did. I don't remember. But he either said, wow, that's like the size of a horse. And I said, yeah, I'm like a cow. It was huge. And so I just snapped 3 pictures as fast as I could, but I was shaking so bad just because of the excitement of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't until last night, and I was in bed, and I was, watching different YouTube videos, and there was one on parachuting. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's about the size of what I saw. Maybe not quite as big as, the rectangle airfoil parachutes. Maybe not quite that big, but, I was trying to be conservative with Lon Strickler, and I said, wingspan of maybe 8 to 10 feet. I would not be shocked if, the wingspan on it was maybe 12 feet, maybe a little bigger, but I'm not really, I just wanted to know what I was looking at. And so did Bill, because he was shocked. He's like, I'm going to go get my binoculars. And then he realized his truck wasn't at work. It was, being serviced. And it's like, damn it, but at least I snapped those pictures just to get some sort of feedback. Mm-hmm. Now, there are so many birds around here. And of course, like you said, I'm not in the metropolitan of Chicago. I'm 30 miles west of Chicago, and I live along the Fox River. We have a lot of bald eagles, a lot of turkey vultures, sandhill cranes, red-tailed hawks. We do have large birds in the area, and I see them all the time. What made this unusual was sandhill cranes are very social birds, just like Canada geese are. They usually always fly together in a gaggle, maybe in a pair. Once in a while, you might see one flying solo, but they don't fly at a high altitude solo. They're actually flying back to a social gathering wherever they're feeding or sitting in water. And sandhill cranes are a very sociable bird, too. What the two of us saw, which is very typical of turkey vultures, eagles, or any large bird like that is that they have what's called wingtip fingers. They look like fingers, which are actually feathers at the very tip of the wings. Whatever we saw did not have this. This kind of looked like sort of a bat wing with long legs hanging out the back end of it, and the head you would visibly be able to see a head and then not see it, and then see the head and then not see it. But it didn't flap the entire time we watched, and it was probably about a minute that we saw this, maybe a little less than that. But the entire time that we watched it, especially when I came back out and snapped those pictures, not once did it flap its wing.
Wow.
It was just in this slow glide slope. And if you've ever seen, parachutist, it looks bigger because of the movement. Now, if it was moving a lot faster, I think the judgment of its size would have been a little bit more registered with me. But it's the speed in which this thing went, and it was not a windy day, but it was just the speed and the massive size of what I saw. And then, of course, today I see that there was a posting went up about this large creature that was spotted up in Quebec, Canada, a flying creature. I don't know. All I really wanted to know was, A, to stop shaking. Yeah, and I was even shaking when I sent you an email about it. It was a profound moment, and I wasn't looking for it. That was the crazy thing. I have a wheelbarrow full of life's problems that I'm thinking about when this whole thing happened, and that changed everything right then and there. Now I want to know what this was. If this is an explainable creature, cool. That's wonderful. And, I've gone through the thought process of, it was not a sandhill crane. I can rule that out right away. And it wasn't a heron because it was too big. But gigantism does happen in humans where, you get some people that have, and I'm sorry, I don't know what the name of that disease is. If it is a disease, I think it's a chromosome thing. And you'll have people that, stand, 8 feet tall. Maybe this happened with this particular species of bird. I don't know, but oh my God, it was so freaking huge that it literally, it had me shaking. And it, like I said, it didn't hit me until last night to think of the comparison to the size of a parachute, especially an airfoil parachute. All I wanted was an answer. I just wanted an answer as to what this thing was.
First of all, it's very cool that you saw this, and you did send me an email right away. And let me just say that you, considering the situation, you had to run in, get the phone, and like you said, there's adrenaline coursing through. You got really good pictures. And if it's okay with you, I would like to put those pictures in the show notes for this episode so that everyone can see them if they haven't yet. Now,
no, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, thanks, fans. But okay, so you said it wasn't a crane, it's not a heron. You compared it to the size of a parachuter, but I mean, what does your gut tell you? Do you think that this is something explainable? And then piggybacking off that, what is this Quebec thing that you just mentioned that it reminds you of your story? If you can answer that as a two-parter.
Well, I'll answer the second part first because anybody can find that article. It was just posted over at Phantoms and Monsters, which is Lon Strickler's. And there was a witness, boyfriend, girlfriend, that saw a very large flying bird, or at least that's how it was described, up in Quebec. But I would highly recommend just read that article because, there it was a sunny day and and this thing cast a shadow that darkened everything. Now, I'm not going to say what I saw was that big enough to darken. I kind of wished it had been a little bit sunnier out because then a shadow would have given me more of a proportional size that I could register to at least say its wingspan had to have been at least, 12 to 15 foot. And again, I said conservatively because I didn't want this to be an exaggeration because I'm just explaining what I saw. So I said maybe 8 foot. Now, I know condors have a wingspan of 8 foot, and maybe it was a condor, but it didn't have that typical finger spread at the tip of the wings. The tip of the wings were solid, and this thing was solid black. Turkey vultures are black, but they have a light gray back end on the wing. And Lon did a really nice job by posting pictures of sandhill cranes and turkey vultures on the Phantoms and Monsters site to do a comparison to the photos that I took.
Yeah.
And there is one photo where you can kind of see a head, you know, maybe it's a long beak, but unfortunately I had nothing to be able to have a comparison in size with, because it flew beyond the trees, and in order to get that, so it's just an eyewitness account between Bill and myself, who both saw this thing, and we both said this thing is freaking huge. And again, we've seen bald eagles up and down the Fox River. We see geese. We see sandhill cranes. Nothing unusual stood out about it, other than the fact that this thing was incredibly huge. So, yeah, what my gut feeling is, Shan, I don't know. I'm at a complete loss. I'm not going to put it into the flying humanoid category. I'm not. I told Lon this was a bird. It was a bird, because I didn't see any human characteristics about it at all. I didn't.
Because
but I know that there's so many Thunderbird sightings in this area over years and years.
Right.
I'm like, well, maybe it is a mutation of gigantism in a species of bird. I don't know. I really don't know.
Because something that, and Lon has been very comprehensive with his coverage of what's been going on around there. And I know that when I talked to him about this, one of the sightings was a definite humanoid, because it was standing like on top of a building, and it's, you know, like it's bipedal, and then it decides to take off from a freaking, isn't that the cop sighting?
Yes.
Horrifying, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's complete Jeepers Creepers situation where you're like, I'm good, no thanks. But yours is different, and there has been other pictures. And in fact, wasn't there one where there was like a statue in the foreground, and then in the background was basically exactly what you took a picture of, right? Where it's more like the pterodactyl looking thing. So it's almost like there's two categories here to this whole Chicago thing.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you know, this thing was heading north, and I'm sure you've all seen, even if it was on TV, maybe you've been to an air show, maybe you've seen paratroopers, you know, skydivers, whatever, and they're called airfoils. They're square parachutes. That way you can control, and you can fly all day on those things. You know, just keep circling around, but you to register the speed in which that glide path is moving, it appears rather small. Just like if you're looking at a jumbo jet coming at you, at times it just doesn't look like it's moving very fast, because the thing is so freaking big. Even though it's doing, you know, a high speed of, you know, 280 knots, it still looks like it's just moving really dog slow. That's how this thing was. It wasn't moving proportionate to the size in speed. And like I said, it was a calm day. There was no high winds anywhere that would slow this thing down. And it just added to the drama of the whole thing as to what the two of us were looking at.
What did Bill say about it?
Know,
what was his input on this whole thing?
Well, after his mouth closed, because his jaw was hanging open looking at it, like I said, he either made the comment about it's the size of a cow, or I did, and I said, yeah, like the size of a horse. It was crazy. And he's like, wow, that was crazy. And then it, you know, was out of sight behind trees, because there's a nature preserve right next door to where we work. And, you know, just our line of sight was blocked by the oak trees, and we weren't able to see it anymore. And he was just shaking his head going, wow, well, that was weird. I'm like, yeah, and I'm still shaking. I'm like, what did I just see? Just give me an answer. I wanted to see the thing land. I've been having these visions in my head of, I just want to see the thing sitting on the ground to do a size comparison with. Again, I go back to the sandhill crane. I've been within 10 feet of a sandhill crane. Yeah, they're pretty big. You know, they'll stand close to 5 feet tall, and I just refer to them as Northern Illinois ostrich. but they're about 5 feet tall. I'm sorry, this thing, what I saw flying, and I think Bill would probably concur, would have dwarfed a sandhill. And again, maybe it is a gigantism chromosome mutation in a bird. I don't know. I just really wanted to see this thing land and be able to get a better view of it. And of course, you know, had I not been at work, I would have probably pursued it in the car to at least see if it was going to land at some point. And I just didn't have that opportunity without losing my job, and that would have sucked.
No, we don't need that.
That's all I've got. Yeah. Feel free to post those pictures. There
thanks.
is no comparison in the photo to be able to compare size with, but at least some of those characteristics of no feather fingers at the tip of the wings, I found that really strange. I really did.
I mean, with it being 1,000 feet up, and then in the photos, if it's 1,000 feet up, it looked pretty darn big. I mean, if you're going off that kind of a measurement, right? So,
right.
It had the legs hanging back, and
right.
I mean, what's the craziest theory that you've heard so far come from this sighting?
Well, I've just heard some criticisms already of, now it's a heron, and end of story, you saw a heron. Okay, I've seen herons all the time here. I mean, there is a huge population of herons here. They're a waterbound bird, but when herons fly, they have their head kind of in an S shape. They fly with their head cocked back to the front leading edge of the wing, and that long beak hangs out. I can understand why somebody would say, oh, it was a heron. But had they been standing next to me, they would have said, oh, hell no, that ain't no heron. And if it is, it's a mutated heron. But herons here, there's egrets and herons. Egrets are all white, and herons and they're called great blue herons. They have this kind of a bluish gray tint. This thing that I saw was black, and I'm talking black. And you can kind of see that in the pictures. This was black. There was no two-tone color, nothing. It was black. So, I don't know. I was at a complete
Vance,
loss.
could you see through the wings at all? Were they transparent?
No. Nope. And it didn't make any noise. That was another question that I was asked. Did it make any noise? No, it was silent. Now, sandhill cranes, they are the noisiest freaking bird when they fly. They have this bizarre chatter that they do, and it's very loud, actually, just like geese. When geese fly, they're always honking and they're making a ton of noise, and I think it's just a communication thing when they fly.
Yeah.
When birds fly solo, it's very unusual. You know, there are predatory birds that do fly solo like eagles and hawks and turkey vultures, even though a lot of turkey vultures do socialize and they hunt for food together. But this thing was solo. It was by itself and no noise whatsoever. Well, I don't know.
Hi, it's Victoria again. I wanted to kind of intercede because I didn't realize that the birds that you're describing we have here in Florida in abundance as well, and I didn't realize they went that far north. So I know the egret, the great blue heron, the turkey vultures, which I actually, my home is in the turkey vulture path, so they're always flying up above. They're always circling, you know, because we have the wooded area. Of course, I told you we live. I mentioned that we live along the swamp. I also live along the St. Johns River, so there's always all that going on. But I didn't realize they went that far north. So I understand what you're talking about as far as like the size, and because they'll be out here in the yard, they're always out everywhere. So our turkey vultures are about 4 to 5 feet tall.
Oh yeah, no, they're intimidating. Yeah, they're definitely. Actually, when I was in Florida, there was a roadside kill, and sure it was a car hit of a deer, and there were turkey vultures all over this carcass, and I slowed down, and they all look at you like, yeah, you want to mess with us?
Right.
I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm just looking, and you keep going, because they are very intimidating when you're that close to them. But, you know, in my heart of heart, and just to throw it out there, guys, this thing would have dwarfed that. it would have dwarfed the size of a turkey vulture, even a sandhill crane. And like I said, right now, it is a migration right now because they do travel south for the winter and they come back up here and they do breed and nest here for the summer. The sandhills do. And of course, our population of turkey vultures, we're right along the river. So yeah, we've got a plethora of turkey vultures and bald eagles here, but man, I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, it was crazy. But I appreciate sharing, and feel free to put those pictures up if you want to. I know that Jenny posted the Fortean Times did a brief article on what my sighting was. So there's pictures there too, and Jenny shared it over at the Caravan of Lore group page on Facebook. So you can look at it there too if you want.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Vance. Thanks for sharing that too.
Oh, not a problem. Yeah, not a problem. I'm still going to try to figure it out, but yeah.
It must be driving you crazy. I can understand.
It's driving me nuts, and I'm looking at my hand right now, and I'm still shaking over this just from talking about it. It's like, crap.
What could you tell about the head? I'm just curious.
I couldn't. The only thing I could tell about the head is once I snapped the pictures and I looked at the pictures, I could see something on one of the pictures. It kind of looks like maybe it was a long beak, but it's hard to tell because it's not a crystal clear picture. These pictures are blurry. Sorry. It's the nature of the beast, and to be honest with you, I was shaking when I was trying to take those pictures, so I'm sure that had a little bit to do with the blur. Because, adrenaline is just rushing through. You don't want to F the moment up. And you're doing everything you can as fast as you can before it goes out of sight. So, but I couldn't see the head when I was watching it, So, we tried.
Yeah. Good job. Good job for getting any pictures. I can't wait to see the pictures. That's awesome. Me too. Good job, Vance. Good job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Story. I like it.
Question, Vance, if I may, real quick. You said that the wings, you at one point described them almost like bat wings. Do you mean that the shape of them was like a bat wing, or was it more like an eagle wing? I know you said it didn't have the finger feathers. I totally get that.
Right.
We're covered up with birds here. I mean, today in my backyard, I've had albatross, I had a bald eagle, I had a golden eagle, I had a red-tailed hawk, another kind of hawk. Right. So I know what you're talking about when you see them fly over. So what were you meaning on the wing?
The wing is not a typical, it's not a typical bat wing shape. It wasn't. What I mean by it is that the wing was kind of, when a bird of prey goes to attack and to a dive, it kind of folds its wings in to gain speed.
Yep.
Well, the wings were probably halfway. It wasn't fully extended. At least it didn't appear that the wings were fully extended. So, but again, what I could see was none of the fingers spread at the very tip of the wing. And the photograph reflects that too. You don't see that. And if you take a look at pictures of sandhill cranes, that is one of the first things you notice are those big feather fingers out at the tip of the wings. So, and they're not glide flyers either. That's another thing about sandhills. When they fly, they're constantly flapping, just like a goose.
Flapping.
They constantly flap. This thing didn't flap once. When it circled, a big circle, and then came overhead, it didn't flutter the wings away. It was moving the wing in and out, but it wasn't flapping its wing at all. And again, it wasn't windy out. It was 55 degrees, so there were no hotter thermals for it to fly. I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's crazy. Well, when you're saying it, that's exactly what I was connecting with because I watch them all day long. I mean, they're right out my back door. We're right by Finger Lake off the bay, off the ocean. And I mean, like I said, I've got them all day long, and I can tell I've gotten to the point where I can tell by the shadow going over which one it is, whether it's the osprey or whether it's, I mean, it's just exactly like you described. You get to the point where you see that. So if it was that unusual to you seeing it, I take it on just that validation of the sound of your voice alone that it was something that it was intriguing, You know,
Yeah.
it was intriguing.
It was more than intriguing.
So,
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Intriguing is just not a big enough word. I want that
I feel
mystery
you.
solved. You know, sometimes
I
you
feel
want
you.
to know
I feel you.
something. You want to know the truth
Mhm.
about Sasquatch. You want to know the truth about Dogman, especially if you witness something. Well, I saw this. Now I got to know what the hell did I just see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it a lifelong quest. I'm not. But
You say that
if
now.
somebody could just say, yeah, I know. I don't know. It's been
Did
an
you say there was
interesting.
water?
This happened. I'm sorry.
Did you say there was water? I couldn't tell whether you said there was water by where you work in the woods there. Is there water or is it just
yes.
woods?
No. I live in the Fox Valley River region.
Okay.
So yeah, the Fox River runs from Green Bay, Wisconsin, all the way to the Illinois River,
All the
which
way.
ties into the Mississippi River. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's a big river chain, and that's why we have as many bald eagles as we do, because they feed out of the river.
Right.
And where
Right.
I saw this was no more than a quarter mile away from the river, from where I work.
Right.
I live on the west side and I work on the east side of the river. So yeah, there's a
Well,
lot
the
of
chances are, the reason I was asking about that is because a lot of times they have these patterns. I know it sounds weird, but a lot of animals have patterns, like raccoons. You know, they'll have a wide spread and they'll hit like every
Mhm.
couple of days the same thing. They got to go around. So you might get lucky enough, and it might come back around. So keep your camera in your pocket, your phone in your pocket.
No, I do.
Because
Yeah.
if it's hunting, you know, chances are it's probably going to come around the same time in the same spot, and you know, especially if it caught something there, you know.
Right.
Because I mean, on a smaller degree, I feel your pain because for 3 years I've been telling my husband we have an albatross in our water. He's like, "There's no albatross," and I'm like, "I can't get a picture." And finally, 2 days ago, he saw it, and I said, "Look," I said, "Now, do you see that? Do you see the picture? Not one, not two, but 3 of them. Now, shut up." You know, it's like,
Yeah, right.
I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. You know, and he's like, "Okay, I should have known better." And I'm like, "Yeah, you should have." But anyway.
You're like, I told
get
you
it. I get your
so.
pain. So something that big, you know, if it did catch something, it'll probably be back. Just keep your eyes to the skies, as they say. You might
Right.
see it again. You might have been
Right.
meant to see it, Vance. You might have been meant to see it. And I know that sounds really
Well, it
strange,
caught
but
my peripheral out of
that's
the top
happened.
of my eye, you know. So yeah, I don't know, guys. The only other bird I didn't mention in the whole plethora of birds is right now there's a migration of pelicans. But pelicans are
Mhm.
white. All of them are
Yeah,
white.
yeah.
Like I said, and I'm sorry, but a pelican, yeah, it's a big bird. It's intimidating, but it just wasn't near the size of
that
what
beak
we
alone,
saw.
yeah, you would have
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah.
You know, that's just that's kind of crazy. Yeah, and they're
Mhm.
real. What do you call it? Like kind of like galoots out there too. They're not really comfortable flying.
Mhm.
They can, but they're not comfortable
Yeah.
like that. That sounded like it was very comfortable with what it was doing.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the fact that it was
You know.
solo, a lot of
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
was hunting.
Somebody give me an answer
It
and I'll
was
be
hunting.
happy.
I'll give you a
It
theory.
was definitely hunting.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'll
Kai.
take a theory.
Let's just say it was somebody. Are y'all feel familiar with the mosquitoes?
Oh, yeah.
Deals, one person helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's somebody made some sort of design, mad scientist design that doesn't have a loud engine or something and doesn't need a propeller, and maybe what you saw the moving was the guy looking outside at the wings and trying to get them to work right.
If it would have been like a hang glider type of thing, I think I would. That wouldn't explain how the wings kept kind of folding back and then stretching out and folding back and stretching out.
Yeah. I'm
Maybe, but I highly doubt it. And if you look at the photographs, maybe you can figure that out yourself. And it was quiet. It was very quiet outside, and we couldn't hear anything coming from this thing. So it wasn't a drone. 1,000 feet sounds like it's pretty far, but it's really not. I mean, if you measure out 1,000 feet, it's not really that great of a distance as it traveled. I would have heard something, But no, there was no noise whatsoever, or a drone, or a glider, a hang glider. I mean, I thought of hang glider, but it just wasn't characteristics. Hang gliders have fixed wings in order to keep stable. This thing, no, this was a creature. It was a creature.
I keep seeing the aviary in Jurassic Park, and I keep thinking of the bird, quote unquote bird, dinosaur, quote unquote, just snapping its jaws and going, "Vance, you look very tasty. I will come down and eat you if I want to."
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys, if you want to see something that'll just blow your mind, whether you've seen it or not, and I'll probably just put a picture of it when we get off of here, just so you guys can see it. What's the pterosaur fossils? What's this thing, and how you pronounce the name of it, I don't know. But this thing is just as big or just as tall as a giraffe. And its beak is just as long as the giraffe. Now, this thing is scary as hell. And this was an actual living creature on this planet at some point.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah,
No.
It'd blow your mind to see how big this thing actually was. And that's not what I saw. I didn't see a prehistoric creature, at least not that way anyway. But it's a fascinating thing to see.
When you look at an emu or an ostrich and you're like, you look down, you look at its face and it's like all beak and then massive eyes. And then you look down its legs and down to its feet and you're like, that's a freaking dinosaur. It has raptor feet. Like, that's from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn dinosaur.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
You
Well,
saw a
like I said,
pterodactyl.
I
End of story. There you go.
Okay.
Mystery
well,
solved.
Thank you for settling that.
You're
for me
welcome.
because,
You're very welcome.
I want to see it again. I definitely want to see it
Hey,
again.
how long did you guys? I know
Can
you're
you
at
get
work.
Anybody with a wildlife camera? I'm sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
just saying wildlife camera. Is there any way you can stick one out there? Just that, or too many things going on out there. Just that would snap pictures.
I haven't even given that a consideration. I suppose I could think about doing something like that. It would be safe enough for me to. No, it wouldn't hurt. Yeah, that's something I didn't give any consideration to. But again, there's so many birds in the area, and on top of which, like I said, I live right off the river. There's a shit ton, and I know Shannon, you said that was an actual measurement.
It is.
Of seagulls. There's seagulls flying around all the time,
Right.
So I'd hate to get, tripped up with the camera and get nothing pictures but seagulls and crows and
Well, I was
goofy.
actually looking at this a couple of years ago. Now, you guys are more technical than I am, but I was actually getting stuff to do, for my yard, to check and see. And there was a lot of stuff, and I know it's people laugh and say Harbor Freight, but they've got some stuff down there that's real cheap that you can actually hook up that comes over your laptop. So, I mean, if it got tripped, you could check it and save it if you want to save it, or don't save it. I mean, it would, if you could get it up in, something cheap like that, so if somebody stole it, it wouldn't break your heart,
Right.
Or if it got hurt.
No, it's funny you
or
say
something.
that because I have a Harbor Freight right down the road from me here. So there you go.
I'm looking at the photo. It's awesome. I think it's a great photo, Vance.
Well, thank you.
Considering the situation,
Yeah.
it's insane, actually, that you got what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a bird. There's no way that's a dude or a, like some sort of, it doesn't look like a craft or some kind of hang glider or something.
No.
It definitely looks like a bird.
Yeah.
Huge.
No, I felt
That's
it's
incredible.
definitely a bird. Yeah, I that I'm hands down on. It was a bird, whether it's a raptor or other species, but it definitely was a bird, not a humanoid. And
I have a question for you. Considering the fact that we have the flying humanoids, which are very clearly the quote-unquote flying humanoids in Chicago, and then we have these that are, dinosaurs or massive birds, or like you said, something with some kind of a elephantitis or a gigantism. I can't say that word right now. but you know what I mean.
It's agromegaly, actually.
There you go.
Agromegaly
Yes.
is the
Victoria
proper term.
has it.
Yeah, thank you.
That was it.
So
Are we going to split these into two groups and then try to go from there? Or, is it kind of just the flying ... in Chicago right now?
Well, Lon's opinion and my opinion is of the same thing, that there's more than one type of creature. Because just even from the police officer's sighting, this thing was standing bipedally on two similar looking human type of legs. And that's not what I saw. But there's other people. Look, we had a case in Alton, Illinois. This is back in the 70s, where this creature, and if you've seen it on Monster Quest, this Thunderbird, which they considered it, actually picked this little kid up and dropped it. He dropped the kid, and, they were all panicked. And they said this thing was just massive. I mean, it literally was bending the branches of the tree as it was flying overhead. And I know Thunderbird history is very prominent here. We've had a lot of Thunderbird sightings in this area, in all of northern Illinois, and even southern Wisconsin. There's Thunderbird sightings over the ages. So, and that's what I told Juan, too. I was like, Thunderbird. I don't know what else to categorize this thing as. Yeah. It was definitely a bird, not a humanoid, but I would put it in the Thunderbird category, whatever. I just keep going back to it's a chromosomal mutation that it might be a known species, it's just that it was gigantic.
I have a question. What is a Thunderbird an omnivore? Does it eat both plant and protein matter?
I believe that the Thunderbird was categorized as a carnivore.
There you go.
Similar to that of a turkey vulture. But what they ruled out about the case that happened in Alton, Illinois, where it picked this child up by the shoulders, it dropped it after like 6 feet, but this kid was too heavy for this thing. And I understood exactly what they meant. Turkey vultures have chicken type of feet. They're not meant for grabbing prey and flying off of it. A turkey vulture feeds its prey where its prey lies. They scavenger it. It's laying there. They feed on it right there. They don't carry it off anywhere.
Right.
A bird of prey, like a hawk or an eagle, has talons. And
what kind of feet did yours have?
Ruled it out. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I could not tell.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it had, the talons or not. To be honest with you, I focused on the wings almost the entire time because they were massive.
Right.
And that's the biggest part of the creature that you're looking at are these giant wings that are just a little bit smaller than a parachute. So, yeah, that's kind of where my focus was. And once I looked at the pictures again, I was like, damn, they're kind of blurry to see what the legs actually were. But I don't know. That's the most information I can give you guys. I wish I knew more.
No, a big high five on the pictures. You did a great job considering it. It's one thing to have it in your back pocket and you're kind of in the moment. And even though the adrenaline is going, but you actually had to run in to get the phone and do the whole thing. So you did really well on that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Chris is asking, where can I see the pics? And until this episode goes up, which won't be till Thursday, go to phantomsandmonsters.com. I would assume that would be the place to go, right? Is that the easiest place to find those fans?
Yes. Phantomsandmonsters.com and Fortean Times. They both have it put up. I believe Phantoms and Monsters, the article was titled Flying Creature Photographed in a Chicago Suburb. And it'll be one of the last postings that went up. So you'll find it there. And there's 3 pictures. That's all I got were 3 pictures of it.
That's all you got. I think you should be proud of what you got considering the time frame there.
If you would have seen me trying to snap those pictures, you would have probably laughed. because I was shaking so bad and freaking out. And Bill was kind of just, he was a little taken back too, but he was watching it, not me. And we were trying to have a conversation. That's when he said the cow thing. But, oh, my God, trying to get it into the frame of shaking, I was like, oh, my God, this was crazy.
Now you feel a little bit more empathetic towards those that see a Bigfoot, right? And you're like, okay, I totally get it.
I always have, but now, it's solidified.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. Good luck getting a clear picture if you're holding a camera and you're seeing something that.
Well, yeah, because you're going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, the whole time.
I tell you, the first thought I had afterwards, because Bill's like, oh, I'll go grab my binoculars, until he realized his car wasn't there. It was in the service, being serviced. Now the Chicago Police Department, they're all mandatory that they have to wear body cameras. And they're pretty cool because you can buy, the little SD cards and just keep a body camera on me. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before. And what are the chances I'm ever going to see something like that again? I think most of the time I'll just be capturing other a-holes driving on the road. And
right.
Probably most what I would
But
capture,
1 in a million, which is what you just had happen.
Like, I'm still shaking right now. This is insane.
Well, you know what's really funny is that
I need a sedative.
I think that, wasn't I joking that we were going to build a massive catapult, and then once you saw one of these, we were going to catapult your ass up onto the back of this thing?
All your fault.
I mean, it's in the beginning stages. I had the idea, guys, and I just couldn't get it.
I'm blaming you. This is your fault.
Get it done
All
in
your
time.
fault. Thank you.
I could have launched your butt right up onto the back of that thing. Not that you actually said I would do that, because, I mean, if it looks like the creature from Jeepers Creepers, keep that mess. Not that yours is. That is two different things. And by the way, I think that's one of the most interesting things about this is that, and on the onset in my little intro, I had it wrong. I said, oh, there's flying humanoids in Chicago. And you're like, yes, but mine was clearly more of a bird, which is very interesting. So there needs to be that separation there between these two creatures or sightings or groups of creatures. We have to keep that straight.
Right. No, I totally agree. And like I said, Lon's been researching this thing for years, along with many other bizarre strangeness, but he has the same feeling I do, that there's more than one type of flying creature, let's just put it in a creature format, seen around this area. So, who knows if they're coming from a different parallel, all that stuff. I just lay those cards on the table because anything's possible, because there's no experts, nobody that I can go to get a concrete answer of, yes, it's this, no, it's not. I love the fact, that so many are raising their hand saying, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Nesbitt, I happen to be an expert in Bigfoot.
Run very quickly.
Yeah.
If they say they're an expert, run the hell away. Yes.
Right. Yeah. There are other photographs of the flying humanoid that if you go through Phantoms and Monsters, they're all there. You just got to scroll through the pages. But there are other photographs people have taken about as clear as mine, and they're kind of blurry of what these witnesses saw at the same time. So I'm not the only one to be able to capture a picture.
Can I ask one more question, Vance? Because this is getting me.
Of course, sure.
But
no, go ahead.
Please. Now, just because you were describing, and I'm not familiar with the bird that you're talking about, the one you said a sand, the ones that are tall, that are common.
Sandhills, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're called sandhill cranes. Okay.
Okay. We've got herons and stuff like that, but I'm not familiar with those.
Right.
Now, you said that they can stand. When standing, they stand how tall?
Oh, the sandhills that I've seen, they'll go to the top of their head about 5 foot easily.
Okay.
They're almost twice the size of a blue heron.
Okay. Okay. That's a good visual. Now, this
Mhm.
thing, your bird, your creature, if it was standing, how tall would you say? It's hard to guess. I know it's hard to guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, going by birds, let me take a bird of prey, for example. Its wingspan is going to be longer than its body is.
You have been muted.
So had this
Unmute
thing
yourself.
landed,
Press the star key twice.
I would have guessed maybe, from what I saw, at least 6 feet.
Dear Lord.
That's really why let me give you a little meteorological background too. It was a very thin overcast. So the sun was visible, but it was that hazy sun. So it wasn't casting a crisp shadow. That was really my first thought, was to get myself into the line where I could see the shadow, because the shadow won't be that distorted from the sun. It will stay pretty close to the size of, and I'm sure you've seen aircraft shadows fly overhead, and it's pretty close in proximity to the size of the aircraft. And that's the first thing, and I was like, damn it, it was just not crisp, bright enough sun to create that type of shadow, or otherwise I would have been able to register a little bit better on the wingspan.
Right.
But if I were to guess, and I'm just giving my honest opinion, I'm not trying to exaggerate this. I want just the golden nugget truth of what I saw. And if it's something mundane, so be it, and I'll be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have guessed at least 6 feet tall. At least
that's
6 feet
incredible.
tall.
I mean, if you think about it, that's incredible, because, twice I've seen a thunderbird that I was told by elders was a thunderbird, and that thing was huge. And but it was such a split second. It was such a split second, and I was a little kid, and you always remember things bigger when you're a little kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yep.
So
Right.
I really don't have much to guesstimate on, except for the fact that its wings went across. It was almost touching the trees, and it swooped down over a road and just literally went up the windshield of our car and just went back up into the. So it was huge. I saw it from underneath both times. So I know that my mother said the same thing, that if that thing was sitting, it would have been as big as a man.
Oh, God.
And she was shaken by it. She was shaken by it. So I understand where you're coming from, on that whole thing. That's just, it's excitement and not knowing, and, and it could be something coming from another dimension. Nobody can tell you. Nobody knows. They're all theories, unless you have something sitting right in front of you
agree.
and you can dissect it. it. So you saw it, and nobody can take that from you. You saw it, and you got pictures, and that's fantastic.
Well, being that it's, so it's the Easter holiday, and I'm sure you're going to probably start seeing these posts up on Facebook of these people holding these gigantic rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying these rabbits are like the size of a freaking golden retriever. Animals can be much larger than what you're used to. They can
This
be.
is true.
It's just that I
This is
haven't, had an encounter or seen one at a zoo. I would love nothing more than to go to the zoo and see this thunderbird thing. That would be fantastic. That would be really the only reason why I'd go to the zoo. But it does happen.
Well, you might have found something else, but there's also something we're not talking about here, and it's like, what if the stuff in Chicago is drawing these things in? There's a lot of, in the inner city, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of that kind of vibration. And Pam and all of us will tell you the same thing. These things are drawn to. What if? Just what if? If we're throwing ifs out there, you got all these humanoids, flying humanoids, this and that. I mean, these things tend to gather, and you might have just caught, one of the creatures that was being drawn to that vibrational pull, and that can come
and that's
from
even more
anywhere.
terrifying to me. It really is.
But you know what I'm saying. But
no,
it does
I get it.
Think about it.
Yeah. No, it kind of
mean,
makes me nauseous to think about. Actually,
I'm so sorry.
It's just
leave it to me to make everybody nauseous.
Yeah, but,
Thanks, Cisco.
Who knows?
You're
Just
welcome,
kidding.
honey.
Just
But
kidding.
that's
No,
but
it's a good
thing,
point.
But it's a thing. It's definitely an there's an upshift of this stuff
Mhm.
going on, man.
Mhm.
I mean, it's everywhere, and it's not just the inner cities, but you're not going to get everything's got to get there somehow, and it might have just been flying by Vance that day on its way into whatever it was. Things are drawn for a reason, and it
No.
could have come from anywhere.
And that's what I say about my own
Sure.
encounter. And I don't mean to, bring mine up all the time, but it's the only thing I can kind of glamp onto as far as
what
I
you
don't
have.
think I
It's what
was
you have.
supposed to see that day. It was kind of just a glimpse into this other blah blah blah, and it wasn't expecting someone to see it. And I do feel like some of these things they get cocky, or they're just like, hey, I mean, this is my world, it's not your world. Or maybe we don't know, it's not going to be our world soon, right? And they're like, well, I'm just going to fly on the top of this
Exactly.
building and land here, and screw you. If you can see me, well, that's your problem. Deal with it. I kind of feel like that's their attitude towards us.
That's exactly what I'm saying. What you just said is exactly what I'm saying. It was almost like it was showing off too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
like they expect you not to see them.
Right.
That's my guess. They.
Hey guys, I just posted a picture of that pterosaur over in actually on the Insiders group page. Take a look at the size of that thing. Now that was made from skeletal remains. So.
Okay.
How do you find the Insiders group page?
Who's speaking right now?
Peter.
Peter. Okay, wait a second. Yeah, I meant to bring this up. I'm sorry. Someone from Oklahoma, Peter, is on the line. Yeah. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing pretty good. How are all you people doing?
Awesome. You've been so patient and not saying anything. I'm sorry. I meant to bring that up, that someone from Oklahoma was in here listening and participating. Peter, if you would please send me a friend request on Facebook, and then I will add you into the secret group, but I can't do that until you accept said request.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, thank you, sir. Do you have any thoughts on what you've been hearing so far?
I do believe, or I'm along the thought of more things are happening. Seems that these experiences are happening to more and more people in the world. How or why, I don't know. It seems that way.
Yeah. Well, and that's all we have is kind of, us bouncing ideas off of each other. And when I do an episode and something seems a little small or mundane, I'm like, you know what? It's probably not that small or mundane, because someone is going to go, hey, actually, that is a huge deal to me, and here's why. And it's a whole another opening of a story, and it opens more dialogue, and everybody can kind of glamp onto that, and we get another window into things, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Any more last thoughts before we sign off here?
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yes.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
It's celebrating the rise of the zombie, so he moved a rock.
Oh my God! You know what? I was messaging with Corey in Canada, our friend that had the alarms going off the last time that we were on, or was it 2 times ago? And he's like, I have to go now. He said that he had people get very offended and hurt because he posted a picture of, it's a Jesus zombie. He's risen again. And it's just supposed to be funny, and people kind of took it wrong. And I just, I kind of, I know, go here. And it's kind of those things where you're just going, it's not to offend anyone. It's just, can't we just laugh at something sometimes? And it's not to offend. And Corey would just felt like, I was going for a laugh, and you guys just went, hey, F you, Corey, you suck because you posted this Jesus zombie thing, and it, so there you go.
Laugh all you want. Jesus is watching.
Yeah. I guess in the end, we'll all find out if it's funny or not, huh?
You're absolutely right.
That is
No.
funny. I'm scrolling through the insiders looking for the picture, and I come upon the Barbie Wii board now. That's funny. I've just got to say.
Yeah.
Barbie's got
that,
one of everything.
You know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She does, that
oh
bitch.
My. Oh, my. Yep. And I mean, if you don't think things are trying to infiltrate, you know, just, I don't know. Happy Easter, everybody. Vance, I'm glad you got your version of the Easter Bunny, honey.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That big-ass Easter
Thank
bunny.
You're welcome. If I don't get a chance to say goodbye to y'all, goodbye and blessings, and thanks for letting me put my 2 cents in.
Always
so much.
welcome.
Hey, Cisco, before you go, what is your podcast? Where can I find it?
It's not launched yet. I'm trying very hard to get it out. I'm doing a lot of
Oh.
research. It should be out in the next couple of weeks.
Mhm.
It's called Journey Through the Gate.
Okay, I'll
Journey
keep an
Through
eye
the
out
Gate.
for that.
And I will take you through the other side of the gate and hold your hand while I introduce you to all the lovely things over there, I promise.
Keep at it, Cisco.
Thank you, darling. I will. I'm trying. I'm not a techie, and you'd be surprised at the cuss words coming out of this house trying to do this recording and editing. It's
Ooh,
not
I want to
easy,
hear that.
But I'm trying.
We need the outtakes.
Yeah.
I want to
Well,
hear
then you fit in
Cisco
with the rest
cussing.
of us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I had to hold my
And I
tongue.
thank you. I thank you all dearly for all the help and suggestions that you've given me, and I think I've almost got it, by George. I've almost got it.
You
So
will.
It's on its way, and thank you for asking. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, have a good holiday, guys.
Yeah.
All right, take
Bye.
care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Happy Zombie Day.
Later.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little fire. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. They will say reincarnation means this, that if you sitting here now are really convinced that you're the same person who walked in at the door half an hour ago, you're being reincarnated. If you are liberated, you will understand that you're not. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only the present. That's the only real you that there is. The Zen master Dogen viewed it this way. He said, the spring does not become the summer. First there is summer, and then there is spring. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.